So today, we're diving into this incredible story of resilience. It's the journey of just one man. But as you'll see, his story tells the much, much bigger story of Taiwan's entire modern educational history. Let's get into it. Everything kicks off with this one question. It's so simple, so humble. A 62-year-old man, right after achieving a dream he's held for decades, just looks back and asks, was my path a common one? And that question, you guys, is the heart of our entire explainer today.
See, his journey isn't just his story. It's really a mirror that reflects the struggles, the sacrifices, and the absolute triumphs of millions of people. It's the story of a generation that was defined by one single word: striving.
So to even begin to answer his question, are there many people like me? We've got to go back. We need to understand the world that made him. We're going to look at 4 very different generations and the unique educational battles that each of them had to fight.
All right, let's kick things off with the oldest group, those who are over 70 today. Now, for them, the main struggle wasn't about getting into a good school. No, it was about getting the chance to go to school at all. They were, in so many ways, the sacrifice generation.
The core feeling that really defines this time? It's resignation. In the deep poverty of post-war Taiwan, families had to make these just brutal choices. A daughter might get sent to work in a factory so that her brother could have a shot at university. The dream was just to be able to study, but for most, it was a dream that never came true. Now that is a world away from our man's own generation, the folks in their 60s. They got caught right in the middle of this massive shift in the education system, and they became the true striving generation. Just imagine this for a second. You either had to face this crazy high-stakes exam just to get into junior high school, or you were part of the new system, where, guess what, they just pushed all that pressure onto the high school entrance exam. So what did many people do? They worked in a factory all day. Then they rushed to night school, what's known as a pushel, to literally fight for a diploma. It was a life of just pure grit.
And what they went through, well, it set the stage for the next generation, the ones who grew up as Taiwan's economy was starting to boom. For them, education was seen as the one surefire way to turn your life around. Their story is one of hardship.
I mean, getting into university back then, the gate was so narrow. We're talking acceptance rates below 30%. So for most people, the path was vocational school and work. And this, right here, was the absolute golden age of night vocational colleges. People would finish a long shift at the factory, jump on a train to get to class, get home super late, and then wake up and do it all over again.
And that leads us to the last generation of this old system. If the other generations were about striving and hardship, this one was defined by pure, unfiltered anxiety. For this group, everything, and I mean everything, came down to one single test: the university entrance exam. They literally called it the one exam decides your life system. Their entire teenage years were just a blur of cram schools. And on top of that, they were the very first to feel that creeping pressure that maybe, just maybe, a bachelor's degree wasn't going to be the golden ticket it was for everyone else.
So when you lay it all out like this, you can really see the pattern, right? It's a clear line from sacrifice to striving to hardship and finally landing on anxiety. Every generation had its own demon to fight. But the one thing they all shared was this absolute belief in education as the only way up. You know, one thing kept popping up over and over again in that whole journey: night school. This wasn't just a building. It was a central institution for these generations. It really deserves its own spotlight. Welcome to the School of Night. I love this idea. A diploma from night school wasn't some kind of second-best option. No way. It was a badge of honor. It meant you had fought for it, paid for it with your own sweat, and earned it through sheer exhaustion and willpower.
Seriously, think about that. This wasn't your parents nagging you to do your homework. This was you, after a full day of hard labor, making a bet on yourself. It was this profound statement of ambition, this belief that you were worth more.
Okay, so this whole history of striving we've been talking about, our guy, the 62-year-old man, his life is basically a perfect roadmap of it. It takes the shape of this incredible 3-stage leap spanning 40 years.
His path was anything but straight. So first, in the 70s, he actually got into university but couldn't afford to go, so he went to work in a factory. Then, in the 80s, after his military service, he put himself through night university. And then, the incredible final step. In his 40s, while working internationally, he decided to climb his final academic summit. And this whole journey makes him a part of what you could call the invisible elite.
These are the people who had the smarts, the talent, the drive all along, but life just forced them onto a much harder, much longer path. For them, success was never a question of if, it was always just a question of when.
And that brings us all the way back to his original question, are there many people like me? Well, with all this context, we can finally give him the data-driven 40-year answer he deserves.
Okay, so lots of people went to night school, right? That was a shared experience. But here's where his path starts to get really different. It was pretty uncommon to get into a day university first and then have to give it up. And what was extremely rare was taking that final step, earning a master's degree while you're working abroad.
And we're not talking about just any old master's degree. He earned an executive MBA, an MBA from the National University of Singapore, just the #1 program in all of Asia. He said the hardest part of the whole thing was the thesis, which is this grueling academic challenge that demands this super rigorous, structured way of thinking that's especially tough to do after decades out in the workforce.
So, to finally answer his question, are there many people like him? Well, the numbers tell the story pretty clearly. About 12% of men his age in Taiwan have a master's degree at all, okay? Now, narrow that down to the ones who got there through that long road of night school and executive education, you're looking at maybe 4%. But the number of people who did all of that and earned their degree from a top-tier global university like NUS, we're talking less than 1%. He isn't just rare, he is a truly rare person.
It's just his perfect poetic ending, isn't it? His story is a closed loop. It's this incredible 40-year arc. The young man who had to trade his university acceptance letter for a factory job became the man who earned a degree from one of the best universities in the world. He didn't just catch up to his old dream, he blew right past it.
And this just leaves us with one final powerful thought. When he finally stood there, putting on that master's gown 40 years later, did he see a reflection of that young boy? The one who had to give up his dream and walk onto a factory floor? He spent a lifetime answering a question nobody else was asking, proving to himself that his potential was always real, delayed, but never, ever denied.